don't know if it was you. It was probably me, but I heard some blasphemy towards what was it? Oh, this is it. They clicked with me. What happened? The internet gods, knowing that I'm a Lionel Richie fan, heard you singing before the Gramco spot,
All
and they're
night long, all night. I got 2 kids now, bro. That's how things roll around here.
I'll say this. I'm glad I'm not Simon Cowell right now, because I would be booting you off this show. Like, you don't sing Lionel Richie. Really? Like, that's like everybody's favorite artist, like, ever. Lionel Richie.
The Italian champ does what the heck he wants. All right, let's talk some football. Real American football.
Let's go.
Carter, did you see today, and we're going to get into some LSU with this too, did you see Pete Thamel's article today about Greg Sankey saying that there could potentially be an all-SEC playoff? Now, I don't know. I hate it. I just got to be honest. I hate it. What's a regular season for? Like, what's a regular season for? It is for you to figure all of this out. College football is unique in its own way. You don't have to make it like the NFL. Why? We don't blame, Carter, we never blame the leaders up top until it's too late. Mark Emmert, NIL, transfer portal, Sankey now. If Sankey's not careful, the SEC is going to fall. What says you, and did you see it?
I don't think the SEC would fall if they went off and did their thing. I would just say that they would turn a lot of people off the sport, right? The SEC is not going to fail, especially with Texas. There's too much money for them to fail. But you can tank a sport if you are too powerful and you cut off so much of the country, right? I understand we're SEC all the way through and through, but part of what makes college football so special is exactly what you said, Blake. It's part of the reason why I am, and I won't get into this here because we want to keep it on American football. It's part of the reason why I became such a huge fan of European soccer is the way that they do things is they do a really good job of making the regular season count for a lot. And you see this in American sports. A lot of your viewers, Blake, are fans of MLB. A lot of your viewers, Blake, are also fans of the NBA. Their regular seasons are very devalued because of how their postseasons work. You do not want that to happen in college football because you know who that hurts, Blake. You want to know who that hurts?
Me.
It hurts you. It hurts the viewer because look, and I'm just talking to everyone that's watching this, Facebook, YouTube, that have watched my channel or watch any college football channel. You are a diehard college football fan. And
through.
What makes the sport so great is each and every Saturday in the fall, you're going to watch a game of immense, significant importance. The immediacy of that is unparalleled in what we have throughout the entire sports cycle, year in and year out. You don't want this sport to become a playoff-only sport. That is good for the helicopter fans that are more fans of the NFL, or they're more fans of the NBA. And when the NBA is not really playing anything meaningful, they'll drop it and watch college football in December and only watch the playoff. But you are not that. You are not that. If you're watching this, you are a diehard college football fan, and you want to keep things as immense and as immediate as the regular season is right now as you possibly can.
Well, and I agree. But see, here's the thing, though, Carter. There's a reason why no one watches the NBA regular season. Not to this extent. We're going to get off tonight's show, and me and you are going to go watch the playoff. Right? Like, that's what we're going to do. Exactly. I mean, we'll keep up with it. Sure. I keep up with LeBron James, the Pelicans, but I'm not going to really get intense with it until the playoff. That's what makes college football unique, is every single week matters. And when you start expanding the playoff, when you start expanding conferences, it doesn't matter as much because multiple teams are going to get in. So for that reason alone, I don't agree with it. Sankey should stop. Carter, I've got to be honest. I know that you got an SEC media pass and all this kind of good stuff.
No, I don't.
Okay, well, then I'll go ahead and say it because I do, but whatever. Sankey needs to chill out because he's going to hurt the sport. You cannot separate yourself from the Power 5. Carter, you can't do it. If you're going to do a Power 3, go right on. Do a Power 2. East and West. East and West. Every big major sports pretty much does that. And then you can make subdivisions inside of that. Sounds good. I don't care. But this will hurt college football more than the portal and more than NIL because at least you have parity inside of a kid transferring to another team.
Right.
But Chad Briscoe says, is the SEC the best conference? Yes. The only way to prove that is to beat everyone else's butt. I agree with that. But I had to get that out. I couldn't talk about it.
No, that's fine. No, this is, and I talked about this a little bit earlier on my channel, and I'm Blake, we don't agree on a lot, but I'm glad we're in lockstep on
we agree on everything.
On every last little thing, right? But look, you want the regular season to matter. I've seen it ruin so many sports leagues, right? Growing up, Jordan and those guys, they played every game hard, so it didn't matter. Like everybody played every game hard. It's just not how it is anymore. You don't want that. You don't want players missing out. So here's a good example of this, right? The Florida shoe toss. All right. Of course, that is one of the best moments ever in the SEC. It had everything SEC all in there. It was chaos. It was everything. But part of what made that moment, I love Rob. For both of us. That is really funny. But look, part of what made that moment so special is when Marco Wilson tossed that shoe, that ended Florida's chances of going to the college football playoff. It ended it right there. They could not get in. Even if they would have beaten Alabama, they still wouldn't have got in. So that game mattered. And Florida was penalized for resting Kyle Pitts in that game. However, if the playoff wasn't the same, then Florida would have benefited from resting Kyle Pitts in that game, even though he was good enough to go in that game.
Exactly.
That's why you don't want that, because Florida would have made the right decision to rest Kyle Pitts. If there was a 12-team playoff or whatever that year, Florida still would have got in. So, look, there are some benefits of playoff expansion, right? It'll make it easier for a Pac-12 team to get in, which is good for the western part of the country, blah, 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 blah. There's a lot of benefits of a 12-team playoff, and I'm not going to stop watching college football if they expand to a 12-team playoff. It's inevitable. They're going to make more money with it. It's just those moments like that just don't matter as much. And that is the major point that both of us are trying to make, because I am a big fan of all these sports leagues. I love sports. It's one of my favorite things on the planet. But the leagues that I like more, the leagues that I care about the most, are the ones that have the most valuable regular seasons, because we're a busy society. We want things that matter. Immediacy is what freaking sells.
Agreed.
That's why those one-game wild card playoff baseball games are so freaking great, right? Because right there, you're going to determine who's going to get in and who's going to get out.
Carter, did you know very quickly that the wild card games in baseball, okay, the most games of any of the big three, did you know that the wild card game play-in is the most viewed outside of the World Series? It's the most viewed game of the entire season.
Right.
Because it means everything. All right. I want to transition. We're going to talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
But just on the initial, it sounds as if me and you are on the same page. We don't agree with it. But let's transition into some LSU. Carter, last night we had a pretty big debate, okay? And I'm going to continue to do it because I think it's relevant. Carter, look, I told you, I sent you a text, and I'm okay with saying it with some clarity, like some things around it. Buddy, A&M's got 7 5-star defensive linemen. 7. They're not going to miss on 7. They're not going to miss on even if they miss on half. Even if they miss on half and you're 3.5. Okay. Yeah. Here's my thing. I lean more for LSU to be 8-4 and 9-3 than what I see when people say LSU, there's no problems. LSU should go 11-1. Please talk me off the ledge and thinking I'm not crazy to think LSU realistically can go 9-3 next season.
Yeah, I think 9-3 is attainable. A lot of it comes down to who's that quarterback, and if that quarterback is a plus quarterback, right? There's a lot of great quarterbacks in the SEC. Now, let me address this. You're getting Dustin says Carter knows football. Let's see his baseball knowledge. Don't waste your time. I love LSU baseball. I want them to win every single game. I am nowhere close to being a baseball expert as 99% of this chat. Okay. Like I just learned who Dylan Cruz was a month ago. So and I know he's special. I've seen his name and I'm really happy. I was always a big Trey Morgan fan because of the hat, the hair, but I don't know that I just couldn't, give you a good LSU baseball analysis, but anyway,
bro, I'm sorry, but when you said this is what was going through my brain. Like that's something spooky, bro. That's spooky, Carter.
Wait, who would? Okay, no. So, I did cover the last LSU national. I say LSU national.
2009.
Yeah, 2000. I was there the full 2 weeks for the Omaha, and it was really
How was
cool.
that experience?
Oh, it was great. It was Omaha's the best. Like it really was one of my favorite LSU experiences of my career, and getting to be there the full 2 weeks, I loved it. And I love LSU baseball. I just don't follow it closely. It's hard. Now, I could set the whole chat on fire. I think I would do a lot of things differently in college baseball. I would obviously the number one thing we all agree on is stretch the scholarship limits from 11.7.
Oh,
It's the most nefarious. It's the most nefarious thing in college.
Carter, they have 2 full-time assistants.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Like it doesn't make any sense. The 11.7 thing.
LSU football pays more for two, okay, recruiting analysts than they do for a third assistant.
It's crazy.
And before you say LSU's not in the green on baseball, you're not. It's not true. They are in the green.
They are.
All right.
No, but look, my last thing on college baseball, the one thing I would do, right, especially with midweek games, is I would just keep them 7 innings. Because look, if you just do simple math, okay, or just simple logic, if you have 11.7 scholarship guys, that means more than likely none of these guys are on full scholarship. So they're already stretching the limitations here that they should be getting full scholarships, right? They should. We all agree that it should
Agreed.
No, it should be 20. I mean, 20. If I were to just go up to someone who didn't know anything about college sports and I told them the roster demands of what college baseball would take, they would say there needs to be at least 20 scholarship players for a roster.
Well, you have a limit of 25. You have 25 kids that are on on your roster. Make it 25.
Yeah.
I mean,
so this is what I would do. And if there was a players union in college baseball, I would demand 7-inning games, all of them. Because if you're telling me that with an 11.7 roster scholarship limit, which is your whole roster, 11.7 doesn't even fill a pitching staff. You're telling me that these guys with their arms, we all know the physiology behind arm science. I'm not Tom House. I'm not an orthopedic surgeon, but I've read up on this. Your arms get tired the more innings you throw, right? I would limit a lot of things. And the one thing I would limit is make all college baseball games instead of 9 innings, 7 innings. Who says no? Who says no to that? Shorter games, better for the players, better for the viewer.
I say yes to 7-inning midweek games. I say no to conference and weekend games. Here's why.
Right.
LSU scored 8 runs in the bottom of the 8th to win the game, and baseball is a fickle sport sometimes, right? Like, I agree with you though. Like, there's no reason why you should be beating a team 21-2 and you can't call it. I mean,
right. Yeah. Okay.
Let's just call it what it is at that point. But I agree.
But we can get back. We can get to football. I just wanted on that thing. I'm not smart enough to know about LSU baseball. I just don't watch it as
I'm going to
closely
make
enough.
you
But
write a
all
12-page thesis on the game of baseball. I'll give you $100 to do it.
okay, I'll do it. I'll try.
I'm going to grade
I'll
it.
try.
If you get anything less than a D or anything better than a D, I'll give you the $100. You got to get a D or better.
Okay, let's start here.
D's
Anthony,
equals degrees. I love double D's.
Let's get Rafe Rhymes on the channel right
Can
now.
do it. I can text him.
Get
text
Rafe. Rafe Rhymes was old school Tony Gwynn contact hitter. I loved me some.
No doubt. He
But
would. I'm going to clip
anyway,
this,
back
Carter, and I'm going to send it to him. By the way, he will have this tonight.
Send that to him.
Right.
I love. He was an old school Tony Gwynn, not an analytics guy because he wasn't a big power guy. I just love good contact hitters, baby. Let's go, Rafe. Let's go.
I'm probably not going to send it to him because it go to his head. You know, like
that's true.
True. All right.
But one more thing about Rafe Rhymes. One more thing. He did give up his scholarship his last year, if I remember correctly. If I remember correctly. So shout out to him for that. But anyway, back to football. I'm done with baseball.
All right. If you have a question in the chat for Carter, hit us with the hashtag #AskCarter. Florida State. Look, I got to tell you this, Carter. I'm being a little cautious.
Right.
The reason I'm being cautious with Florida State is the only thing that I continue to see is I went back on Bet Online, who's one of our great sponsors. Okay. Yeah. The line actually started off at 4.5. Last week was at 3.5. This week's at 2.5. After last year in UCLA, I get the coaching staff change. I get all of it. I understand it. I'm still going to be cautious with this. They have more talent than Florida State. Carter, the truth is they have more talent than 95% of the teams that they're going to play this year. When you start, Carter, we're almost 90 days into it. Like, we're almost here. When you start looking at what says you, what do you think about this opening game and games along the schedule for LSU?
So shout out to Bet Online supporting you, man. And if I were to give a side on this, I saw a lot of people. Well, I saw one person tweet out that they really like the over at 51.5. And you normally look.
I love that, by the way.
You love that?
I love it.
So I actually go opposite. I like the under. So
guess how many points Notre Dame and Florida State scored a season ago?
A lot. It was a 30. What was it? 38, 35 or something like that. And,
yes.
But here's what I'll say. Right. So Cincinnati played at a slower pace, and you look at the last 6 games that Mike Denbrock called versus Power 5 competition. All of those games went under the total. So not only did the under the total of 51.5 that set for the Florida State game, but more than likely those games also went under the total that was set for those games. So I went and I looked at that and I was like, that's very interesting. You also look at Florida State. So if you look at both the coaches, even though LSU's under a lot of pressure to not lose their 3rd consecutive opening game, Brian Kelly's going to be here for forever, right? Mike Norvell is not unless he actually gets out of here and wins this football game. So one very key storyline as far as Florida State is concerned is Norvell actually got rid of the OC, and now he is technically
calling plays.
He's calling the plays, and Alex Atkins, their offensive line coach, is now the co-offensive coordinator. Both of those guys have a lot of work to do because Florida State's offensive line is kind of a mess. LSU's offensive line is going to have a bunch of new bodies. So this game's going to be played at a slower pace. You're going to have pure chaos on the offensive line. You got a play caller for LSU that calls, at a slower pace compared to Florida State, who has a play caller who's under a lot of pressure. I could see the under, really happening here, even though you see a bunch of totals week 1 that are in the 60s, and it looks tantalizing. And you're like, Kayshawn is back, and Kayshawn's a walking over. Anytime Kayshawn's on the field and over,
agreed,
he can get an over on his own sometimes, just based on
wild.
He's crazy. Like, it's amazing all his explosive plays can speed up the pace of a game. But for me, I actually like the under there because of a lot of the new faces and a lot of the new offensive linemen.
Well, look, I'm being tempered because of what happened a season ago. Coaching does matter.
Right.
But Carter, you just said something, and Pooh Bear is my witness. I preached to the high heavens last night. Carter, I think that they're fooling us a little bit. I don't think they're going up tempo. I think that they'll have sporadic moments where they do, but I agree with you in the Denbrock thing. I think they're going to lean heavy on their front seven defensively. And they're going to try to rest them as much as they can by running the football and, yes, getting to you guys the football out in space. But I think that Brian Kelly's going to wait to see what he has before he just says, hey, Mike, let that bitch rip. Like that.
Right.
And so for that, I think that's why that line, Carter, that line, the over-under, you know what it started off as? 55.5.
Right. And that's what concerns me is that's already,
Carter went down 4.
That means the sharps are coming in heavy on that under. So, man, or at least a lot of the money is coming in on that under.
True.
So, it's interesting. Chris makes a good point. This will actually be Florida State's second game. So it will be, the second game. But this, this is the game, right? I mean, I just think it's going to be a slugfest at this point. Even though, the best unit for either team is LSU wide receivers, right? So that in and of itself can, get an over, but, we'll see. But obviously, the line at -2, that lets you know that this game is more than likely going to be close. And hopefully LSU ends up winning that one.
Carter, outside of Bama in the SEC, is there anybody that scares you? Like when you look at film or you look at other teams, is there a team out there or two that you're like on this schedule that LSU plays that you're like, man, that's an absolute dogfight? Because, Carter, I got to be honest. I look at it and I see multiples.
Yeah.
I honestly see 4 or 5 because I think if Anthony Richardson gets going, I think if Will Rogers is hot early in the part of the season and with Mississippi State, by the way, Emmanuel Forbes is returning, Hooker at Tennessee, what does Jackson Dart look like? Then you got Bama. And then everybody is trashed on Max Johnson, and I get it, but we talked about this the other day. Carter, in 13 starts, he has 38 touchdowns. And I get Jimbo. I understand it. I would still take Jimbo Fisher's play calling at home versus Jake Peets. Anywhere.
Yeah.
And so I've said my piece on that. So you're the calming presence of me. What says Carter? Is there anybody that you look at and you're like, man, I don't like this?
You make a good point, Blake, about the regular season and what makes it so special in college football. And I used to do this a lot as a fan. I would used to look at the schedule and just think of that game. But that's not how college football works. You got to think of the game in the context of the schedule. Who do you play when? Do you play them back-to-back weeks? And that's where things get a little difficult, right? So, one team that you didn't mention there was Arkansas, who, returns their head coach, quarterback, OC, and DC. They're one of 8 teams in college football that does that. And look, continuity is everything in the sport. Everything. And when you have that rare bit of continuity, especially, you look at analytics, collectives like CFB Matrix, they view Arkansas's OC and DC combo of Barry Odom and Kendall Browns as the best in the SEC. And they are really good. They've turned down a lot of jobs. Kendall Browns could have gone to Miami. Barry Odom's gotten a lot of looks. He was a success.
They're about to pay Barry Odom $3 million to be the DC at Texas.
Yeah, I mean, Barry Odom won at Missouri. He was not bad there. He was fine. And Pittman fits what Arkansas's doing. So, it's tough. The quarterbacks in the conference are really, really good. And that's why LSU's got to hopefully find one of these 4 guys. As we all know, it's more than likely one of these 3 guys. Hopefully they can get someone that can go toe-to-toe with some of these good QBs. Because, look, this is Matt House's first year calling plays in a while. He's going to have a bad game or two. This is new for him, right? So you're going to need a quarterback that can go out there and win a shootout, and hopefully one of the 3 guys can do that.
Carter, do you think that you could make the argument that LSU has the toughest schedule in the country?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you believe Travis is a good quarterback, right? Every year Arkansas's got a tough schedule. Every year, a lot of these schools in the West, Auburn having to play Georgia every year on their schedule, and they get a tricky Penn State non-conference game this year. Auburn every year has one of the toughest schedules, but LSU with a new head coach, as high as you could be on Brian Kelly, it is a new year. This is going to be new for him. Yeah, you could pretty clearly say LSU, if they're not number one, they're no doubt top 5, top 10 toughest schedules in the country.
All right, last question, and we'll let you rock. Okay,
Let
it rock, let it rock, let it rock. Is KJ Jefferson a sleeper Heisman contender?
No, because I don't think they're going to win enough. I look, if they win 10 games, then yeah, he'll have a good shot at going to New York. I don't think he's going to put up the numbers because he doesn't have Burks anymore. And, to win the Heisman, you got to put up some numbers. If you're doing a quarterback draft in the SEC, Jefferson's probably 3 or 4 on that list. So, yeah, he's got an outside shot, especially with Kendall calling the shots. But for me right now, he's not. I will say this, Blake, there are a lot of quarterbacks I feel in the country that are overvalued. I don't get the Quinn Ewers thing. I don't get the DJ Uiagalelei is going to be different at Clemson. I'm also, I know you're really high on Anthony Richardson. I'm very interested to see how that works out. Obviously, the upside is there. One guy I don't get, and he's not on LSU schedule, and I know he destroyed us last year, but Will Levis, I'm not getting where, the NFL draft hype is coming in for Will Levis. This is a guy I just don't think anything of. I think he's fine. I don't think he's special, but I do think Hendon Hooker, who is on LSU schedule, can be really, really special this year, especially running an offense that is very explosive in what Tennessee has with Heupel.
You're the GOAT. GOTE, goatee.
Goatee. Huh?
You're the goatee. You're the goatee that makes AYS run. I appreciate you, my brother, but let me I lied. Let me ask one. You just said Hendon Hooker.
Yeah.
Is Tennessee the sleeper team? Because let me tell you something, Carter. I think Tennessee's got a bad crossover. Okay.
Yeah.
Because they got to go to, or they got Alabama and they go to LSU, right? And so, man, that's tough. That's tough. In year 2, can they get to 10-2? Sure. But man, I mean, that's a tough schedule. Bro, they play. Here's what they got in 5 weeks, Carter. They have LSU, Georgia, Alabama, and I think Florida in a 4-week span. That is brutal, dude. That's brutal. So Here's the thing. If Hendon Hooker legitimately does well in those 4 games straight, he's your Heisman winner, Carter.
Yeah. Yeah, and and look, there could be some voter fatigue with Bryce Young if he doesn't just go out and light it up. And yeah, Hendon Hooker's got a great story as well, transferring from Virginia Tech. And Heupel's offense is very QB friendly. You could put up some big numbers in what he does. He's got a lot of innovative concepts, such as the backside receivers on a route sometimes won't run a route. They'll just stay still and rest up for the next play. It's very innovative stuff, right? And they're very forward thinking. I think they got some bad luck in that Ole Miss game last year. There was so much made about the golf balls and the mustard and all that stuff. But
bro, did you hear my show last? Oh no, you were in England. You were eating tea and biscuits or drinking tea and biscuits. Bro, how's that conversation go with you and the boys? Say, dog, I wish I had something to throw at Lane Kiffin, and you bust out a thing of mustard, be like, say, dog, I got this thing of French's in this bitch.
Just chunk that thing,
This
baby.
man chunked a thing of French's. Bro, that is why I love the sport. This man threw French's at the dude. Bro.
I love it.
Oh,
Look, I'll say this. I've been to Knoxville once. I found Tennessee fans. I wasn't there for a game. I found Tennessee fans to be a very interesting species.
oh,
Like
they are.
they're so excited. They finally got some hype. They've been so mediocre for so long since the Peerless Price, which is still one of the coolest wide receiver names of all time
No doubt.
since the late 90s. But I do think they're special, but once again, it goes back to what we actually started this whole conversation with. Your schedule is everything. So, I'll end with this, Blake. I do like the college football aspect of, every week matters. That still doesn't mean the SEC schedule is good. It's not. It's horrible, actually. With the cross division rival, a school like Tennessee is getting screwed having to play Alabama. And as their one rotational team, they get the worst draw, which is, playing LSU, which is arguably the second most talented team in the West of the past 2 decades, right? So, it's stuff like that that just drives me nuts. And LSU fans have had to deal with playing Florida as a cross division rival. So hopefully, with the expansion, we get a 9-game conference schedule with the more even rotation. Hopefully that turns out to be better, and it'll be better for you, once again, the fan. And hopefully that does happen.
I don't move on Saturdays. I don't move.
I don't either. It's
my wife doesn't get it. She doesn't get it.
Yeah, and
I might cut the grass early in the morning, in the fall, but buddy, it's over with me. I mean, I am not moving.
What's very interesting, Blake, is part of it, and this is a big thing. Part of it is the regionalism of the sport, right?
No doubt.
As far as like pro franchises are concerned, Arkansas doesn't have a pro franchise. Mississippi doesn't have a pro franchise. They just don't. That's why Saturdays are so special, for a lot of people. And for me, I just love the immediacy. Like whenever you go to a game. Now it's tough for us. I don't know about you, Blake. I was only able to go to one game. I'm not sure, if you work in media, it's tough to go to the game because in the back of your mind, you're like, well, all these other games are happening and I got to do a post-game show and I got to do a film.
Oh, I don't go. I don't go for that specific reason anymore.
I don't either. Like, I wish I could, but sometimes
scared money don't make no money, and we got to make money.
Yeah, it's the biggest thing, man. But it makes it special. Like I know I'm not like a Vanderbilt fan, but if they're playing a close game, that one game could count towards your 6-win total, whether or not you're going to go to a bowl game. And that game is oftentimes the deciding factor for those bottom tier, middle tier SEC teams. So it makes it what it is now. And it makes us the most blessed people on the planet that we are college football fans. Who cares about all those other sports outside of the EPL? Of course, I mean, go Liverpool.
Here's my thing. I don't know if this can make context. South Carolina is going to be the Liverpool this year. They're going to surprise some people. You heard it here first. Watch out for Beamer.
I'm in agreement. I'm in big agreement. I think right now I would pick South Carolina to finish second to Georgia.
Oh,
I would because of this. Tennessee's schedule is really tough.
It's brutal. Carter, it's the toughest in the country. It's the toughest 4 games that we in a row from a team that we've seen probably since 19 LSU.
They're good.
And the good thing for LSU was they were just better than everybody. Carter, they faced 3 top 10 teams in a row. 4, if you're going to count Texas, in a 5-week span. Oh, and then they had Auburn and Alabama. I mean, dude, it's a gauntlet, bro. It's tough. A gauntlet. Okay, we got to get out of here. The XM radio people are going to kick us off. All right. I love you, my brother. We'll see you again next Monday. unless Tackett Curtis commits a little too soon.
I will share my Tackett Curtis take on your next show. How about
All
that?
right, we'll do that. We'll do that. All right, Carter, I love you, buddy.
See you,
Power
bud.
Hour LSU. Go follow, listen, subscribe, all that good stuff. We'll talk to you next week.